It's been 6 years of continual progression for Coventry City under Mark Robins since the Coventry City manager returned for his second stint. They've come up from League Two into the Championship, and they reached the Championship player final last season, losing it, of course, to Luton Town. But if they continue that theme this season, under the new ownership of Doug King, they could very easily get promoted. But there's talk of one or two key players leaving, and business has been quite quiet so far, although there has been some rumblings that there could be some movement in and out. Well, to discuss what's in store for the Sky Blues in this 23-24 season, I'm delighted to be joined by Neil Littlewood from the Football Social and Wardy from Sky Blues Extra. Good morning to you, gents. How are we?
Morning, Gab.
Morning, Gab. All good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm great, thanks. Really looking forward to getting stuck into this one today. Just before we do, we're also available on YouTube and on Spotify. And if you're watching either this on either of those platforms, do give us a subscribe because it helps us out a lot. And check out the other videos once you're done with this one. Coming to you first then, Neil, how do you reflect on the rise that the club's enjoyed over the last 6 years?
It's a bit surreal. And I'm sure Wardy and every other Cov fan can attest to this. When you're losing 6-2 at home to Yeovil, to then what feels like in a heartbeat, you're one kick away from the Premier League. Literally one kick away from the Premier League. It's bizarre, and it's happened so quick. And
you didn't have that sensational goal from Maxime Biamou at Wembley, though. You know, so you got to weigh these things up. So
yeah, this is true. This is true. But yeah, it's just it's incredible, and look, we've been through the ringer, and I think we bleat on a little bit about how harsh we've been treated. You know, moving out of the city to two different venues. Even last year, going to our fourth home ground in 3 years or whatever it was. You know, the terrible ownership before. We've had players sold for peanuts from underneath us, and we've been through the mill. It's good to finally have something to celebrate being a Coventry fan, because for years we were, I don't want to say a laughing stock, but you meet people, and Wardy will get this more living where he lives. But who just support Coventry? Why? You know, and it's like, well, because we do. But now we can say it with a bit of pride. So
yeah, well, it's sometimes it's not even like how. I mean, I'm speaking from the outside. I'm a Birmingham fan, but I get the impression when I've met Coventry fans for a previous era, it's like I support Coventry. Unfortunately, it's not even how it's responded to. It's almost like it's a bit of a joke that because Coventry City, from the outside, the perception of Coventry City was a basket case. And I guess, Wardy, it's so much credit to Mark Robins that he's just been able to completely change how Coventry City fans feel about themselves, as well as how they've been perceived in the outside world.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Mark Robins has done an unbelievable job. Some of the things Neil alluded to, you know, he's been faced with just constant crap to deal with pretty much year on year. There's always something, isn't there, Neil? There's always something to that affects this year. Yeah, and you know, last season, I mean, last summer, well, summer wasn't too bad. You know, we didn't have the best window, but we did okay. And obviously, the start of last season with all the pitch issues, I mean, it was one of the lowest points we've had. I know, obviously, we've had some real lows, but the start of last season was terrible, and you just couldn't really see how we were going to have a good season. You know, rock bottom, and yet again, Mark Robins has pulled it out the bag. Lifted us right up the table, went on, you know, an unbelievable run, and ended up fifth in the playoffs. So I still can't believe it happened, to be honest.
Do you think Mark Robins believed he could have achieved what he has with Coventry City when he first took charge?
Would he have thought that?
Yeah,
I don't think so, to be honest. I mean, when he took us over, we obviously were about to be relegated to League Two. We obviously won the Checker Trophy with him, which everyone says was a big turning point in the history, because it galvanised the fan base and showed the potential of the fan base. I don't think he would have thought we'd have got this far, really. I think his job was just to get us back to League One at least, and you know, sort of start rebuilding the club. You know, we had to do a real rebuild in the League Two days. And that was his job, really. I can't imagine he thought he'd get us all the way up into the Championship playoffs.
For me, I think you always hear managers talking about like a 10-year plan, project. You see the date above my head. That was a Checker trade, 2017. I think the plan was to be in the Championship within 10 years. I don't think it was to be anywhere near the Premier League. And again, I hark back to it, but the fact we were literally one penalty kick away from being there after 6 years is just phenomenal. And it speaks testament to the work that him and his staff have done.
Yeah. The weird thing for me is it doesn't feel that long ago that I remember. I used to go to quite a few of the games in League Two where you had that monotonous 1-0 win over Barnet, and it was like just awful game of football. And it doesn't feel that long ago. That's the crazy thing. And I suppose you've kind of can't help but reflect on where Coventry have come. But Neil, I want to throw it forward a little bit as well. What's required for Coventry City to really push on to that next level? Because I suppose the change of ownership does give you that opportunity to really think in those terms.
Squad depth for me. I think one thing that has hampered us over the last 2 years is a plan B. I think we've been very one-dimensional, and I mean this with all due respect because it worked, but we've been very one-dimensional. And the games we've struggled in, you can see teams have figured out how to play against us. So last season, it was keeping Gyokeres quiet. The season before, it was keeping our hair quiet. And we haven't. I can't think of many games off the top of my head where Robins has looked to the bench and said, "Right, I'm going to bring this person on, change the formation a little bit, and get a result." Swansea at home last year, we were 3-0 up and cruising. Russell Martin turned to his bench, brought on Joe Allen, changed their formation. They get back to a 3-3 draw, which is phenomenal for them, embarrassing for us. But I can't think of a single time that we did that. Now, a lot of that is because you look at the bench, and there's many times last season I looked at our bench and genuinely thought
it's like four academy graduates.
Exactly, and don't get me wrong, it's brilliant to have those guys coming through. But when you're pushing at the upper echelons of the division and you want that promotion, you've got to be turning around and looking at established players in this league, or impact players that can make a difference at this level. And with all due respect to those academy guys, are they the ones that he's going to trust to do it, or would you rather turn around to? I look at some of the signings that West Brom made, where they bring in Jed Wallace and John Swift, and they've got good quality Championship players in and around that squad. Their manager can turn around and make those substitutions. I mentioned the Swansea game, bringing Joe Allen off the bench is incredible. And I can't remember the last time we had enough quality and depth to be able to do something like that. So for me, as good as it is, we've got the superstars like Gus Hamer, like Callum O'Hare, Ben Sheaf, Gyokeres. For now, it is that sort of that depth that I think we're lacking.
Yeah, I mean, coming to you on that, Wardy, would you almost see it as a net positive if you're able to get the kind of fee that you're hoping for from Viktor Gyokeres and maybe even Hamer in order to add 5 or 6 quality players that just improve the depth of the squad?
Yeah, we definitely need to build depth, as Neil said, for sure. That was definitely something we were lacking last year. I think, let's be honest, Gyokeres is on the way, right? I think it's probably going to go through today to Sporting Lisbon, probably around 20 million euros. I think that is a good deal for us. I think, he's been a good servant.
Forgive my grasp of economics. Is that like 16 million in pounds?
Something like 18. Yeah. Okay. I think, yeah, something like 18 to 20 mil. I think there's some add-ons involved as well and stuff like that for appearances and goals, the usual stuff. But I think that's pretty much a done deal. So I think that's a good deal. He's been quite vocal that he's keen to move on. So you obviously just at that point you have to move players on. I think we all expected it to happen anyway if we didn't go up. Yeah. So that wasn't. It's not a massive surprise. Obviously it's disappointing, but we've had some great memories of Vic, and I think every Cov fan would certainly wish him well. Absolutely, that money is going to be really important to rebuild. Obviously, Ellis Sims has been rumoured to be signing today as well. People were saying 8 million. I'm not quite sure it's that much. I think it's probably going to be 8 million eventually. I think it's 3.5 up from cash, because these deals get talked about on social media by agents and everyone as the kind of total lifetime of the deal. So we're obviously reinvesting quite quickly with that money. With Hamer, I personally wouldn't want him to go. I don't think we'd get that much money for him.
Really?
But I don't know, really. I find him hard to value. I don't know. I'd much rather keep him. I just think he's so important for how we play. Basically, if Hamer signed a new contract, my excitement for the season would just increase so much. Just I think he was so important for us last year, how we play, just how versatile he is in midfield, and we could build a team around him. You know, Gyokeres is disappointing, but you can get another goal scorer. You can slightly change how we play. I know Vic did a lot for our team, but if we slightly change how we play, and you get O'Hare fit, and you've got O'Hare and Palmer and Hamer and players like this in the midfield, you know, providing for someone like Ellis Sims, we can score goals. I don't worry about that. But someone like Hamer, players like that don't come along very often. I think it'd be so hard to replace.
Don't get on the bus.
For me, Gus is the best player obviously in the City shirt since Gary McAllister. Going back that far, his technical ability is unreal. And the fact he's now sorted his disciplinary issues out, which, funnily enough, it was the game at St Andrews last year was his last red, and he went. Was it like 11 games without getting booked after that? Which
might have been more than that. Might have been 20, to be honest. Something ridiculous.
Bizarre, because you know, he was always a banker to put on a coupon for a booking at any time. Gus was. Yeah.
How do you feel about that then, Neil? Do you feel like Gyokeres, though? I mean, I think Gyokeres is a fantastic striker. I rate him incredibly highly, but sort of Wardy's intimated there that perhaps not having him might change the dynamics of the way Coventry play a little bit, and it won't always be those kind of balls down the channels. And actually, if you get Callum O'Hare fit, you can keep Casey Palmer fit, you bring in Ellis Sims, that you get those three combining. Could that be a fun attack to look at next season?
Oh, 100%. I think Wardy's definitely got the nail on the head there. There will be a system change, and there has to be, because Vic is that vocal point, and you know, everything went through him last season. He created a lot on his own, as well as, you know, other players getting in there. But a lot of that was down to the fact that Callum O'Hare was injured and Palmer wasn't about all season, and you know, sometimes it didn't work with God, and he had to do it on his own a little bit. And again, I might get a couple of pouters for this, but Vic's very frustrating sometimes when he's on your side, because it's easy to sit at the stand and say, get around him or pass it there. But there's times when you're looking at it going, if he just had that little bit of head-up football, he'd add so much more to his game. And he did towards the end of the season. You look at his last contribution in the Coventry shirt, it was his assist in the playoff final for Gus. So he added a lot of that to his game.
Yeah, because I think sometimes his link-up play is actually quite good. I've seen him pick out some good passes as well.
It's improved drastically. There was the greedy shouts at one point, weren't there, Wardy, where a lot of people say, "Oh, he's just greedy. He's just in it for himself." Got double figures assists. So that's rubbish. Is that? I just think if you're bringing in someone like Sims and you can keep O'Hare and Palmer fit and have more of a team game rather than a reliance on one person. I think that's only beneficial for us.
I find it interesting with Vic that actually a lot of the goals I remember him scoring were ones he created himself. He would. There was a lot of games last season I remember where he'd squander like 2 or 3 chances in the first half that were on a plate for him, and then in the second half, I think it was the Millwall home game, he's just created a goal out of absolutely nowhere on his own. And actually, you think with someone like a Sims, if you're burying those couple of chances early doors, the game's over, and that's what we need to be doing better next season.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. Well, hopefully Ellis Sims can come in. I mean, I think it's interesting, that dynamic, isn't it? Because so much of Coventry's game last season was those early balls from Gus Hamer and picking out Gyokeres in the channels. And maybe, you know, if there is a bit more combination play, that could be a positive. But obviously, you know, Gyokeres is going to be a miss, and I don't want to underplay that either. Wardy, what do you think Coventry are going to need in terms of numbers between now and the end of the window?
We do need a few. We need a few players in for sure. Obviously, if Ellis Sims come in, we possibly need another striker, I would say. We're probably a little bit short at the top of the pitch. Not quite sure what sort of player we go for there. To be honest, if we can keep Hamer, I think the midfield's sound. I think it's a really, really good midfield. We just signed Liam Kelly on an extension as well. He'll be great cover for us. You've got Jamie Allen in there, who hopefully we can use more. No, I really rated Jamie Allen, but I think not to rely on him as much as we did last year and have him as someone we can bring in will be more effective. We probably need 3 centre halves, being realistic. You know, we've obviously Doyle and McNally gone back.
Sure.
Fads isn't getting any younger, although he, you know, brilliant again last season. Rose has obviously moved on, so we probably need 3 centre halves realistically. I'm sure we'll probably look at the loan market like we tend to. You usually get a good quality player from the loan market. That's proved last season. What else do we need? We need a right wing back, I suppose, as well.
Are you confident? Do you think you'll stick with wing backs then, Wardy?
Yeah, I can't see us changing that. Yeah, we'll play. I mean, we've signed Jada Silva at left wing back, so that just, you know, that shows that him and Bidwell potentially will rotate. Although I've heard rumours Bidwell could move on, so who knows? But so yeah, we need a right wing back, and then probably need a goalkeeper as well. Or you know, I've heard that we're probably going to sign a goalkeeper. I imagine Simon Moore might move on. Obviously, he was very out of favour last year. For me, I think Ben Wilson deserves to be number one. You know, what does he have to do to be number one? So I think he deserves it, and then perhaps we'll bring someone in to be number two. But yeah, I think that's what we need. I don't know what Neil thinks, but
I agree with a lot of that, mate. I definitely think a new keeper. I agree with you. Simon Moore's not getting any younger. I think he wants to go and play, you know, what he still can, with all due respect. You're right. I think Wilson has done enough to deserve to keep the number one shirt. He should start the season number one.
How well he's done, actually, Wilson, to be fair.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, unbelievable. And what a bloke as well. You look at all the social media content of him, he just seems like he just loves every single day of his life. You know, what a bloke. I don't think
he expected to get to this point. We talked about like Mark Robins expecting to get here. I tell you what, Ben Wilson did not expect in his lifetime to get the Golden Glove in the Championship. That is for sure.
Ben Wilson's been a career number two, and I think he's the first one to admit that too. And out of nowhere, we got this opportunity, and this is the perfect example of getting an opportunity and grasping it with both hands, because that's exactly what he's done. And he likes scoring goals as well, so that's always a good thing. But I do think a new keeper comes in, and for me, I don't think we should look at number two. I think we should look at someone who can challenge him and have that competition, because I think that's where they both thrive. In terms of centre halves, I agree. Definitely need 3 coming in, like you say. Doyle, McNally, Rose, Panzo go in. That's 4.
Yeah, Panzo, I've got that.
Yeah, so there's rumours that one of them can come back in terms of Panzo or potentially McNally. I'd take them. For that,
it's literally just McFadden by the looks of things, in terms of senior centre halves.
In terms of senior centre halves, yeah. Whereas I think that's where we need to look at. You know, you look at the free transfer market. Sonny Bradley being released by Luton. I think most clubs in the Championship should be fighting over someone like Sonny Bradley.
Yeah,
I think he'd do wonders. I've seen Liam Kitchen from Barnsley linked. I think he'd be again
a great signing. Yeah,
I think he'd be another great signing. Again, I can see he's utilising the loan market a little bit.
Tell you what, just on Liam Kitching, he was absolutely. I don't know if either of you watched the League One player final. He was absolutely outstanding in that. So, and he's.
I couldn't watch any football after ours.
Fair enough. Yeah,
he's your teammate.
Yeah, he played on the left for back 3 for Barnsley, so he already knows the system. So, yeah.
The only thing with that is obviously they've lost their captain to Luton, so I don't know if they'd lose another centre half. But if we've got the money, I'd definitely be tempted to knock their door. Sonny Bradley was another one. There's one centre half that I've rated massively, and that's Kipre, that was at West Brom. I know he was in a load of Cardiff last year. Tell you what, I'd love him in a City shirt. I think he'd be phenomenal. I just think he's solid as a rock. And yeah,
you almost got me starting singing there, Neil.
Nearly. And yeah, I think the midfield looks after itself. You know, Sheaf, Hamer, Kelly, Allen. That's great. Ryan Howley coming through can do a job in there. Josh Eccles as well. I think that's really solid and possibly the best collection of centre midfielders in the division for my money.
I don't know if I agree with that, actually, Neil, because there's part of me that's concerned that when players get past a certain age, with like Liam Kelly is now, there's always that potential for them to have a massive drop-off. In fact, I'm pretty sure that around sort of February, March time, Liam Kelly was completely out of the team and fans were saying he's past his best, and he finished last season well. But I'm concerned that he might have a drop-off, and then you're asking someone like Ryan Howley to have a massive sort of surge in form, and then it actually is Jamie Allen as good as we've been saying. I mean, he's a terrier, he's a hard-working player, but before he worked under Mark Robins, he'd only been playing sort of League One. So, and if Hamer were to go, I'm not sure. I'm not sure I'm as confident in the midfield as perhaps you are.
I get all of those points completely. Firstly, Liam Kelly, I was one of the ones who wrote him off, and I thought, you know what, he'd move on in the end of the season, if not retire. I thought he was at that point, and then Blackburn away, he came on at half-time for Sheaf injured, and he looked like a 24-year-old, and he played like that for the rest of the season and earned that new deal. And if we get that Liam Kelly back, I'm not concerned at all. Jamie Allen, I agree. I think he's a squad player. I think he was on his way out of the club last year. Injuries and everything else kind of lent to him getting more game time, scored goals, took his opportunity as well. I'm the first one to hold my hands up and say I don't rate him as a footballer. I think he's a good athlete and he adds depth to the squad. It'd never be the first name on my team sheet, but I think he's good to have around the place. And you're right, Gus could go. I don't think he will, but you're looking then at having a lot more funds to then go and replace him and potentially bolster that area. I think as things stand, I'm very happy with the midfield. In the attacking positions, you've got Callum O'Hare and Casey Palmer. Keep them fit. You've got two creative geniuses there. But I do agree with what Wardy said. We're losing Gyokeres. We're losing 20-odd goals there. And as good as Sims is, I don't know if he's a 20-goal-a-season striker. I'd quite like, because there's rumours of Morgan Whittaker from Swansea. I'd take it. Jerry Yates was mentioned before. Again, snap your hand off. Him and Sims played together for Blackpool. They know each other. They know each other's game. If they can translate that into a Coventry shirt, I'm sure we'll all be happy. Also, that's a market that we can exploit with loans as well, because we've done it really well the last few years, utilising the loan market. So I think that there's still, I reckon, a good 10 players to come through the door by the time the transfer window closes.
What do you reckon, Woody?
Yeah, I agree with all of that. I think, it's probably 8 to 10 players. It's because obviously, there's been a lot of panic on social media from Cov fans over the last couple of weeks, which tends to happen. But I just think with going back to what Neil said at the very start of this, really, we've just developed so quickly that we're fishing in different markets now, and it's not as easy. We used to sign just loans and frees, and that's all we did in the summer. And you could probably get them done a bit earlier, and they're very easy to go through. We're now in a situation which we've never been in before, really, where we're waiting for 20 million quid to come through the door before we can make any signings, or we're just making sure things line up because it makes good business sense to do that, right? And it's just a different way of doing things. I do think that the Gyokeres move, which should go through this week, will be the catalyst for a load of signings. I'm sure there's things lined up. There's probably, I know we do, things get done in instalments, but clubs will want some cash up front, and we might have players, teams that want, £1 million up front or 500 grand up front. And we don't have millions of pounds just lying around in a bank account ready to give to people. So, I do think the Gyokeres move will be a catalyst for that. I'm sure we've got things lined up in the next 2 to 3 weeks. I think will be a bit of a whirlwind, really. And, like Neil says, potentially 10 players coming through the door, but I think we can get it done. I think Doug King's serious about it. He's showing a lot of intent. If Ellis Sims come in, I think the fans will calm down slightly, at least for a few days.
A little bit.
So, yeah.
Just to piggyback on that a little bit, Wardy. You say about us fishing in different waters. I remember the days where we had to Google who our signings were because we had no idea who they were coming through the door. Yeah. This is one of the first times where the players were linked with. I go, oh yeah, I know your man from Swansea. I know Ellis Sims. I know Kitchener. I know these players, and I mentioned Ellis Sims a couple of years ago as a potential signing then. So it's different for me. Whereas we signed Gus, none of us knew who Gus were. We had no idea. I don't know if it's turned into a gem, but at the same time, we brought Jabello, Castaner, Hills. These players are coming in.
You know what? I actually thought Castaner was quite good when I saw him. Maybe I caught his
for about 10 minutes of one game. Yeah.
Yeah, I felt like he came off the bench. I'm sure there was one game in the title-winning season where he came off the bench for 15 minutes and just was absolutely like electric for like or he might even been like a 5-minute cameo or something.
Scored a worldie, didn't he? Against, was it like Gillingham or someone? Can't remember.
Yeah, possibly.
In off both posts or something, but yeah.
Yeah, clearly rubbed it the wrong way with Mark Robbins. So in terms of wing backs, then Wardy, we've talked about Jay Da Silva coming in, so him and Bidwell. I think that's the left wing back position sorted. I suppose the question I would ask is whether you're looking at bringing 2 right wing backs in, or whether you reckon Josh Eccles could play there, or whether you feel like you've got someone else who could play there in the squad.
It's a good point. We haven't really got anyone at the moment, have we, Neil? I can't think.
Burrows.
Burrows potentially. Did we play him on the left though when he was better at Watford way? Can't remember now.
No, he was. I'm sure he played on the right against Watford because he played against Ismail Sarr.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, when you say
someone will call me out and say I'm wrong, but
yeah, I mean, when you say it like that, we potentially do need to. I mean, Eccles can do a job at right wing back, but actually, I was so pleased when he got his chance in midfield because that is his natural position, and because I think he played right wing back away at Sunderland first game of last season, didn't he? Had a shocker.
Yeah,
I felt a bit sorry for him.
Yeah, again, square holes round pegs and all that sort of jazz. But on the flip side, Southampton away in the cup last year, we played right wing back and he was brilliant. So yeah. I could see him potentially being used as an option. But yeah, I agree. We need to go somewhere else. Sorry, interrupted.
Yeah. No. We probably we definitely need to sign 1, maybe 2. But I suppose you could have 1 and have Josh Eccles as cover. I want to see him playing in midfield, and maybe if everyone was fit, he probably would be starting on the bench, but to come on into midfield. So he's a quite a good versatile option in that respect, I suppose. It's not like we're so reliant on him in midfield that he couldn't do a job at right back. So yeah, but we certainly need to look at that position. That is a key one for us to get someone in with quality and to start in the first team.
Yeah, well, let's hope you can find that. Neil, it's an interesting. You're obviously going to be starting your pre-season games soon.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow, and you've only got one. You only got Carl McFadzean, who's a natural centre half in terms of the senior squad. So I'm wondering, is there someone from the under-21s that is probably likely going to start tomorrow? Whether you think, I'm just looking at a couple of the names: Abel Alabi, Dermy Lasala. Can any of those players possibly come in? I don't know if you've heard anything about good, talented youth prospects.
Well, they're more fullbacks, sort of wing backs. I could potentially see them playing and potentially Bidwell filling in as a sort of centre half if need be in those games. I thought Jen McGrath would have had a chance this year, but he's been let go. He was on loan at St Pat's in Ireland last year and did really well by all accounts. There's a couple of lads who are there or thereabouts. I like the look of Perry, who played a lot for the 18s last year, but broke into the 23s. Big, strong, quick centre half. I'm interested to see how he gets on this year. And look, this is the perfect opportunity to give these lads that experience and for Robbins to have a bit of a closer look at them. The one thing I will say about Robbins, he does go to a lot of the under 23 games. I pop up to a lot because they play about 3 streets away from where I live. So I pop up on Tuesday afternoon and watch a few. And Robbins is always there. So from that point of view, I think it helps that progression. But he sees snippets. I don't know how much he sees them in training, etc. So it's always good to see them and how they mesh with the first teamers like Kyle McFadzean and the likes of Gus and Ben Sheep, etc. in front. So I think these games we've got coming up in pre-season are the perfect opportunity to give these lads that chance. And I look forward to seeing what they can do.
Yeah, well, hopefully they can really grab this opportunity, because I do think there is going to be a bit of a window for some of those lads in pre-season to really impress Mark Robbins. As you both know, I've got to make my 1 to 24 predictions in a couple of weeks, which I'm looking forward to. I'm sure that'll be interesting. So I've got a question. Which of you two? I've got 2 questions. One that's a more optimistic question, and one that's a more cautious one, should we say? So I want to say, which of you do you reckon is the more optimistic Coventry fan?
Wardy.
Okay.
It probably is me, to be fair. Yeah.
Okay. All right. We'll give you this one then, Wardy. What would be the reason for me to be hugely positive about Coventry City and say they could push for promotion this season?
Yeah, I'd say obviously the Gyokeres money being well spent, which it seems like it is going to be with obviously Ellis Sims coming in. I think with the new owners, with Doug King in charge, he's talking about wanting to. He's basically said he wants to have 3 out of the next 5 years in the playoff positions. Now, to do that, he knows he's got to spend money. He knows he's got to invest in the squad. So he's very keen to do that. He's got a bit. We've got a better vision as a club, I think, to actually do it and do it. With a plan in place, not just sort of winging it a bit. So that gives me reason to be positive. And I think just from what we said at the start, Mark Robins always seems to pull it out of the bag. I think it's worth noting that since he took over, we haven't, we've improved year on year. Our league position has only got better year on year. So if he can do that again, we'd be in the playoffs, if not the automatics. Now, I'm not saying he's definitely going to do it, but I feel confident. I feel like he can do it. So, yeah, that'd be sort of my reasons to feel positive.
Well, you know what's coming then, Neil. What will be the reason? What would be the reason for me to be a little bit more cautious about Coventry City and say they could drop out of the playoffs this season?
Right. So obviously we're losing 20 odd goals in Gyokeres. So they are going to be hard to replace. And as much as we keep mentioning Ellis Sims, that's not done yet. So as things stand, we don't know what's going on there. The playoff hangover, ask Huddersfield how easy it is to bounce back from losing at Wembley. There's every possibility we could fall into that sort of trap. I hope we don't, but it could happen. Again, going back to the Gyokeres thing, our whole style of play is going to change. And the league just looks a lot harder this year. You look at the 6 teams that have come in, I think they're, on paper anyway, they're much stronger than the 6 teams that have gone out. The 3 sides that have come up from League One, Plymouth, Sheff Wednesday, those 2 alone, I think will do some serious damage. And then Ipswich have got a lot of money, and they've got a good squad as well. So you compare that to, with all due respect, the likes of Reading and Blackpool and Wigan that went down. They're stronger. Leeds are a huge club. Leicester, I hate saying it, but they're a huge club, and they've already thrown their financial weight around. Southampton as well. It looks like they could potentially be sitting on £8 million worth of transfer fees coming through. If they invest that, they're going to be a joke of a squad. So the league's got a lot harder. And again, other clubs are spending money well. Birmingham City have made some great transfers already this summer. And they won't be the only ones. Watford have strengthened already. It's a lot harder league this year. So that run that Wardy's on about, where we've progressed, all good things have got to come to an end. And this could be the year that we do finally not make that progression.
Well, let's hope that's not the case, and Coventry City can kick on, because I've been just incredibly impressed with what you've been able to achieve over the last 6 years. Gents, thanks so much for your time. I really do appreciate it. Before I let you go, Neil, what are your plans for Football Social? Any content plans to share with us for next season?
It's all up in the air at the minute. A couple of us have just had kids, so it's times a bit hard. Scoops just keeps breeding for some reason. So it's a bit hard to get us all together as much as possible, but we're looking at getting something soon. I've got my Sky Blue View stuff, which I'll be picking up again. And I'll be making guest appearances on certain podcasts soon.
Love it. Wardy, what are your plans with Sky Blues Extra for next season?
Yeah, usual stuff from us really. So obviously we have the weekly podcast where we tend to moan and groan and occasionally celebrate the games. Nah, it's usually pretty positive. But our weekly podcast, we're going to be doing a pre-season pod as well, hopefully down at the Sky Blue Tavern as well, which will be recorded on video, which would be great. We also have a guest special coming out very, very soon with a recent ex-player. So I'll leave that as a little surprise for everyone, but that should be coming out within the next week or 2. We did actually record it in the middle of the playoffs, so it's a little bit time-stamped, but that should be a good one for everyone to listen to. So yeah, that's it from us.
Recent ex-player being Bobby Gold.
A bit more recent than that.
A bit more recent. Well, listen, thanks so much for your time, folks. I really do appreciate it. Thanks to you for watching at home. This has been EFL Debate, the Coventry City Summer Deep Dive, with Wardy from Sky Blues Extra, with Neil Littlewood from the Football Social, and we'll see you again very soon.
Cheers, guys.